Welcome to the Author's Corner with H.D. Campbell. Each show will be filled with news, interviews, technology, and reviews all about you, the writer. And now here's our host, H.D. Campbell. Welcome to a new year and new season of the Author's Corner with H.D. Campbell. As always, I'm your host, H.D. Campbell. Today's episode starts a year of big shows to celebrate 5 years. Ever since 2008, I brought you major interviews and worked hard to keep you informed and entertained with the crop of guests that I've had. This year will make it no different. I'll be doing new shows, I'll be doing special shows, I'll be doing more shows on location, and I'm even going to attempt a live show this year. We're doing it big for 2013, and I'm bringing you along for the ride. Now, I'll have more news later, but when the Author's Corner returns, we're going to kick it off with The One Essence. We'll start off our first 2013 show with The One Essence. Stay tuned. So you all thought Bruce Williams' journey ended with How to Lose a Black Woman? Well, you thought wrong. See what his friend Geraldine has to say. Coming soon. From authors Janae Sashi, 2 erotic tales of love. Intimate moments. A lady in her 30s looking for a relationship after being divorced 5 years is torn between 3 men. One is an unhappy married man, one is her ex-husband, and the other one is someone she just met. She leans towards rekindling the relationship with her ex-husband, but still has reservations. She has broken off the contact with the married man and has agreed to spend some time getting to know the new man. The J-Spot. Women flock to him like bees to honey and fall at his feet at the sight of him. Although he's aggressive, he's still shy and flattered by all of the attention he receives from the ladies. He really doesn't understand all the attention. He's like an average male with a large sexual appetite and has a way of giving those ladies pleasure. But there's only one lady who catches his eye. He can't seem to get her out of his mind. What is it that he's feeling? Or is it he wants what he feels he can't have? Is she out of his league? Get to know Janae Sashi on her website at janaeebennett.com and buy her book at amazon.com, CreateSpace, and all these other websites. Welcome back to the show. I also wanted to say that this first show I wanted to bring with limited interruptions because I just have so much to bring you today. First off, I want to bring you The One Essence. When we last spoke, we talked about a lot of things from her being a domestic violence survivor to an author to radio host. Well, I just wanted to catch up with her and see what's going on. Now, here she is, The One Essence. Last time we spoke, you let me read your book, Memoirs of an Ordinary Woman, and I loved it.
Basically, volume 2, right?
Yep, volume 2. So now you have a new one. You have a new project coming up. So tell me a little bit about that.
I'm very close to sending Memoirs of an Ordinary Woman Volume 3 to the editor. There was a character in Volume 2 that I had an overwhelming response to, and everyone wanted to know why Mamie McGillicuddy, who was a character in Volume 2, behaved the way she did. So I said, you know what, instead of going on to continuing where the book left off, I am going to go back and do a prequel of sorts and tell everyone why Mamie McGillicuddy acted the way she did. So my next Memoirs Volume 3 is totally about Mamie, and it's called Mamie's Mayhem.
Okay. Now, tell my audience about Memoirs of an Ordinary Woman, the series as a whole.
Okay. Memoirs of an Ordinary Woman tells the story of women that you wouldn't necessarily think had an extraordinary story to tell. The average woman sitting on the bus stop, or you see her in church or a grocery store, and just by glancing she may look like a plain Jane, outwardly, but she may have had experiences in life that not only could teach you lessons, but are extraordinary. Most women people have stories of triumph, but you'd never know they're extraordinary tales because they don't fit into your square of what an exciting or a person with something you want to hear fits in. So I tell the story of extraordinary, ordinary women.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to put you on the spot for a second. I want to say that you're an extraordinary woman yourself who is a survivor. Do you want to touch briefly on what you've accomplished, and what you've gone through?
Oh my gosh, where do you want me to start? I assume you're speaking about domestic violence.
Absolutely.
I experienced in my marriage. I was married for 13 years, and it started off wonderful, but we had problems, and he had problems that he didn't know how to deal with, and I didn't know how to deal with his problems, and resulting in numerous years of domestic violence in my marriage. And I thought best. Well, I had two small children. I said, if I leave for me, because battered woman syndrome is a disease. It's a mental disease. Most battered women can't just pick up and leave because mentally they're disabled. And I said, if I can't leave for myself, I have to leave for my children, my son and my daughter, because one, I didn't want my son growing up thinking that is how he should treat women and that it was acceptable. And two, I didn't want my daughter thinking that this was all she had to look forward to in a relationship. So even though I felt bound, he made 3 times as much money as I did. And I felt like I couldn't give them the life that he could, but I could give them a mentally healthy life. And that was my motivation for getting out of the relationship after 13 years of marriage.
And peace of mind is definitely what it's all about. And I'm going to tell you, you are an extraordinary person. You've been my friend for a number of years. And because of that, I've seen nothing but strength in you. You always have something nice to say. You always have a smile for someone. Always a kind word. So that speaks volumes to you and everybody you know.
Thank you. I always try to treat people, and it sounds cliché, but I always try to treat people like I want to be treated. And if I don't want anyone to accept negative behavior from me. I'm not beyond doing something negative or wrong. And I want those of people that I interact with to say, hey, slow your roll. And in the same light, I don't want anyone to treat me negatively. So I try to help as much as I can because I need help sometimes. And, what you give, you get back tenfold. And, I love helping people. Every chance I get, I love making people feel good. And so, it's not a big deal to me to just be kind, which is something we don't have very much of in society today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So now, now that you have survived domestic violence, and now that you have become the strong woman that you are, do you do anything to give back?
What do I do to give back? Church. I am involved in my church. I attend a potential church here in South Florida. It actually has churches all over the world, but I attend the one in Cooper City. I give back. The greatest gift that I can give is being kind. I give back. I help other authors. Anyone who calls me, anyone who messages me, they need promo on the radio station, just ask me, Anywhere I see anyone needing help, I'm willing to step in and help. I'm not willing to be taken advantage of now, to just fall off a turnip truck. But I step in and I help authors, musicians, all the time. It's no problem for me to give free promo, free interviews, whatever they may need, graphic design, whatever.
Okay, well, now that you said that you have a radio station, tell me a little bit about that.
The One-Essence Radio, that's my baby. Oh, wow. She came about when I was doing a talk show on Blog Talk. I was interviewing authors, and I actually sat in on one of my Blog Talk friends' shows, Gail Delicious Talk Johnson, and she was just playing some music, smooth grooves music, and everybody was grooving, and when her 2-hour show was over, we didn't want to stop. So then I went over to my Blog Talk for 2 hours, and I played, some music, and everyone was having a good time. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning before we finally got off. And I wanted to do it legally, because legally you can't play non-podcast music on Blog Talk. And also I wanted to support the musicians whose music I loved and was playing by paying royalties for playing their music. So I did a lot of research on how to start an online radio station, because FM radio is not accepting applications. So the only way we can do it now is online. So I did a lot of research and I built the One Essence Radio. I was hosted on Loudcaster for about a year, and then they shut down, which is a blessing, because then I was able to completely brand the OneEssenceRadio.com to, you know, its own radio station, its own website. We house everything. We have a media player that's housed through Loud City. And that's only because through Loud City we are paying royalties. So our media player is a Loud City media player. But we are also, you can get us on Shoutcast, you can get us on TuneIn. I've counted about 25 different ways you can listen to the One Essence Radio, and other groups of stations that carry our station without, you know, they didn't ask permission, but I don't care. As long as the station's music is being played and the promos are getting out there. And it's really great. It blossomed to something that I had not anticipated, because it was just supposed to be like something social for me and my friends to hang out and legally listen to this music that we're not hearing on mainstream radio. And now all of a sudden we're doing interviews. We have celebrity guests. Oh my gosh, we just got Christopher Williams to come on in April. Last week we had Cheryl Cooley from Climax. We interviewed Walter Williams, singer from the OJs. We're just having a blast. I have 7 hosts. 2 other than myself are live. That's publisher R.M. Green and Juwan LaRue. They have live shows. And then I have 4 other syndicated shows, and hopefully more to come. You know, we're 24 hours a day. If you're not listening to a live interview, you're listening to some great family-friendly music.
See, I love that. I love that. I'm just going to make a quick aside here, too, that I actually really do appreciate the fact that you play a lot of, I like to call grown folks music. That I really love that, and you give a lot of credence to a lot of good artists, especially a lot of good artists that mainstream radio won't even play.
Right. And unfortunately, there are artists that, you know, most of us grew up with, but they're having a hard time getting mainstream radio to play their music now, because they're still making music, they're still performing, they're still, you know, they're still out there, and mainstream music is not recognizing them the way they should be. So that's what I try to do.
Oh, you're doing a very good job. You're doing a great job at it. So when does your talk show air?
My talk show is called Let's Talk Music. It airs every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have some amazing, not just artists that you've heard of. We do interview a lot of indie artists also. You know, we want to give everybody a chance to be heard, because music is what they call the universal language. So there's something for everybody. In fact, listening to the station, you won't just hear soul or R&B or jazz. You'll hear Indian music. You'll also hear reggae. You'll also hear country and pop. You know, so, you know, you're going to hear something for everybody.
Well, see, the one thing I love about you personally is that you're just an infusion of everything. You're an author. You're a talk show host. You do a lot of stuff. You have a pretty smile. You just all that infusion of everything, which is actually why we've been friends for so long. I mean, I just love good, positive people, and because of which, you influence other positive people.
Yeah. Well, I hope to think I am influencing someone positively, but I don't like to place limits on my creativity. Because when you place limits on life, you lose out. You miss out on something. And I want to experience everything, all the positive in life that it has to offer. So I don't place limits on myself. Okay.
Well, I actually have a question that's in 2 parts, sort of.
Okay.
Number one, I'm going to go back for a second. As a survivor of domestic violence, what advice would you have for someone who's been in your position?
Talk about it. You know, people might get tired and say, oh, I don't want to hear, because you're going to keep going back. Talk to them anyway. Because you may talk to someone one day that'll be that catalyst for you leaving that situation. The more you hold it in, the worse it's going to get for you. And not just the physical part, but domestic abuse affects everyone mentally. So talk about it. Talk about it, and the more you talk about it, the more you hear yourself, and you'll realize this is not what God created you to be involved with. And it'll be a lot easier when you're ready to make that step to leave. Well, the main thing I want to say is always be true to your art. Art is work. It's not easy. When you develop a certain style of writing, or a certain style of producing music, or a certain style of singing, stay true to it. Don't let anyone change you. We have all kinds of reviewers and critics out there who tell you the way that they think it should have been written. But that's what makes art unique. It's done the way you felt it to be done. And yes, you probably could, use a little editing help, or you could probably use a little vocal coaching, but still stay true to the style that you have developed within yourself. That's the only way that's gonna make you stand out from everybody else. We can all go to school and take an English class or creative writing class and write the same way. But then it would be boring, and no one would have a breakout book, or every book would be on the top 10. You want to stay true to the art craft that you have developed within yourself.
Okay. Now, what if I want to start a blog talk radio show? What do I do, or how can I go about it?
First, you're gonna have to go to blogtalkradio.com. And pay them $40 a month, and they'll give you all the instructions. Blog Talk. If you're being a talk show host, honestly, I never ever thought about being a talk show host. One person took a chance on me and invited me to his radio network because he saw something in me that I didn't. And I was actually only on that radio network for about 3 months before I said, hey, let me branch out on my own and not limit myself to just a certain kind of topic to discuss. And it's not as hard as you might think, and it gets easier. If you're not nervous before a show or an interview, then, you may not be doing something that you really enjoy, but it gets easier as it goes along. And I wouldn't suggest anyone not take a chance and do with whichever avenue it's offered to you. At least try it just before, you say it's not for me, or it is.
Okay. And also, what's in the future for the The1Essence?
Oh, The1Essence. Okay, we have Mammy's Mayhem coming out in May of 2013. And then I'm going to do something that I haven't done in many years. I am going to, in October of 2013, release my very first erotica novel. I stopped writing erotica for poetry for about 3 or 4 years because I felt like where I was in my walk with Christianity, it didn't fit. But since then, I've come to understand that God gives us a lot of different gifts. I'm not saying I'm writing porn. I'm saying erotica is definitely a difference.
Absolutely.
There's a sensuality to erotica that porn doesn't have. And he gives us many gifts. And it would be wrong of me not to share what he's given me. And within certain guidelines, I think I can do it. So November 13th, we're going to have my first erotica novel. It's going to include some poetry also. And after that, I'm just going to take a break from writing and focus on the radio station.
Okay. Very good. And now I'm going to ask you, do you have any final words?
Oh, I thank you for having me on your show, and I always enjoy talking with you. And I'm looking forward to your novel coming out, too. I heard you got a novel coming out.
Oh, yeah, the sequel to How to Lose a Black Woman. So I'm it'll definitely be out by the end of February.
Okay, and I enjoyed reading that. I read that book, and I definitely enjoyed that book.
Thank you very much. And as always, I enjoy you. When we return, we'll talk to the poetic unsub, G.P.A. Have you checked out the Author's Corner lately? It's the best show you're not watching. It's filled with news, interviews, reviews, and other surprises. Check me out twice a month with the latest in the literary world. Check me out on my website, www.htcampbell3.net, or my YouTube channel at hdcampbell1230. And as always, let your writing fuel your spirit. Need a manuscript edited? Or maybe you need a press kit. HD Campbell Productions can give your project detailed attention and will not be satisfied until you are. We also do press releases, resumes, and more. For prices and services, log on to my online store at www.hdcampbell3.net. And as always, let your writing fuel your spirit. Welcome back to the Author's Corner. My next guest is the poetic unsub G.P.A. There are many facets to this deep brother with the romantic words. In fact, so deep, the interview ran kind of long, so I had to break up the interview. So you'll see part one on this show, and you'll see part two on the next show. But for now, here's part one. Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great, and I love, I'm glad I have again, man. It's been so long. We talk on Facebook a lot, but we don't really talk, so I love that. But I want to start off though. I'm going to put you on the spot, okay?
Sure.
I'm going to throw some names out at you. These aren't my names on your website. These are names of people, okay?
Okay.
Award-winning, debonair, eclectic, and inspiring. All these words describe you.
Yeah.
G.P.A.
Yeah.
Well, basically, how did it feel to hear those words, and what do you think about them?
Normally, great question, by the way. Normally, I would say something like, it feels really good, blah, 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 blah. But since I've taken a new direction with G.P.A. this year, I'm going to answer the way G.P.A. would, like this. I put in my work. As opposed to when we first started, when we had our interview, I think I was only on my first book, The Confessional Art of a Man, and headed into the second book, which was the Book of 24 Orgasms. In that time, I've accumulated a couple of awards, which, are always subjective, and I've just put in my work. I try to, when it comes to the debonair, whenever I go perform or wherever I show up somewhere, I try to look like I'm supposed to look. Now, you see me on the phone. Dude, you see me on the phone. That's just rude. But he just has no coup whatsoever when he wants to. But excuse me for everybody listening. That's Scooter the Beagle. Everyone knows that besides my brother, my mom, my daughter, close member of my family is Scooter the Beagle, Scooter Jardine. So he sees people outside. He doesn't care. He just says, I'm asked out. So I moved to a different part of the house. Once again, I apologize. I try to look the part. Also, as far as award winning, that kind of self-explanatory. I just try to bring it. I just bring it. And when you have a name, a moniker that says greatest poet alive or phenomenal poetic unsub, you have to do what you're supposed to do as far as living up to those names. That's basically what I'm trying to do, and people have taken notice. It's only so long before people can ignore what the obvious is. Like, when we interact on Facebook, I look at you as, when I say, like, on my page, like, you're a good dude. I've never met you face-to-face. I've never been in your company. But just from the vibe and just from the things you put out, just from the conversations you initiate or are part of, it's obvious that you have, one, a sense of goodness, two, a sense of self, and three, you have thoughts that go beyond the literal. So, in the same vein, you see me, I'm constantly writing. I give away stuff for free, writing, and they're not average writing. So I'm doing this, or you see me here, you see me there. That's just the work being put in, and now people are starting to like, oh my goodness. Wait a minute, there may be some truth to this. He actually may be pretty good, more than a loudmouth. So that's that there.
Okay, well, first I want to, before I ask the next question, I want to reiterate two things with you. Number one, just know that what you just said, the feeling is straight mutual. Everything you said about me, I could just turn right back on you because you're just that way. Number two, this is not my interview. It's your interview. They're trying to put me in it like I didn't write this. You did, my brother. But no, I know. Seriously.
I know, but you know, I like to use comparisons, especially when they are very valid, and then people can say, "Oh, okay." If it's like someone will be listening, and they say, "Okay, I know HD, right? That's solid. Oh, this is what he meant, right?" And so you draw a parallel to something people might be more accustomed to or more aware of than G.P.A, and then they can make the comparison and say, "Oh, he means this." So that's why I did that. Oh yeah, don't worry. This will be an all G.P.A thing. I've turned myself up pretty good, so that was just that. We didn't got the brutality out the way. Now we're gonna go, and we're gonna go where we need to go.
that is not a problem, my brother. Not a problem at all. So with that, we'll go with our next question. You mentioned when last time we spoke, you had already published Confessional Heart of a Man. You were publishing the book of 24 Orgasms, which are both doing very well that I can see. There's no problem, man. So tell me, what have you been working on since then?
Since then, I published The Mind of a Poetic Unsub, which one reviewer said was very ambitious of me because I did everything that a poetry book normally doesn't do. I included everything. I went through my repertoire. Joey Pinkney, outstanding reviewer, said of it that there were many styles displayed. It was like showing up at your friend's house, your close friend, seeing he's changed the furniture around, changed the house around, because I gave everybody something different. For people who like haikus and cinquains and styles of poetry, I gave them that. Someone like more serious, more heartfelt, more serious, can't really grasp the word, but more power-punching poetry, then they got that. If they were looking for things that were of a love essence, they got that. And if there were things of a sensual nature, I threw something in, an entire book in at the back of it, and they got that. So they got everything. I talked about some of everything, which is a departure, not only for me from the previous work, which is the book of 24 Orgasms, and I got labeled as erotic poet, but from what most poetry books have. They throw a bunch of things at you, and it isn't really focused. It isn't really centered. So that's what I did with that book. And also, I released a CD called the G.P.A Experience, and that was just something. Spoken word artists really release CDs. They do that thing, and people kept saying to me, you really need to release a CD. Your voice will go great. And I never really thought that, and I never really thought about a CD, but I worked with a gentleman here, Black Ice, renowned spoken word artist. I worked with him. He put together great tracks, and I put my poems over it. That did really well. It's still doing pretty well, actually. So I decided to work on another one. And I've been more places than I had before. When we spoke, I was still maybe local as far as my travel, but not local as far as my reach, as far as books and what have you, things I've sold or people I've connected with. But I've been to different places now and met different people, and that's really been cool. I never would have thought, places I've gone, like, wow, and stayed and just been a part of their culture for a few days, a week or so. That's been really cool. And now we lead up to what we're on now, which is Revenge of the Orgasm. So that's pretty much it. Won the Moth Storytelling Slam, which is, and I'm really, really proud of that. I'm not ashamed to say I'm really, really proud of that because it's not a quote-unquote black competition. It's not technically even a poetry competition, but I took my poem Bully, My Chocolate Milk, and took it in and won. I was the only black contestant out of a group of maybe 15 judges or whatever. They were grouped into 3 different groups, respectively. There were a couple black judges. So I went in, and the crowd was 98% non-black. So I went in and I won.
Wow.
Convincingly, with Bully, My Chocolate Milk. So I'm very proud of that. And then I compete for the Grand Slam next month. So I'm really proud of that. So that's pretty much the gamut. There's probably some more things. But there are a lot.
I'll tell you.
I've appeared on and things of that nature, but that's pretty much it. I'm working towards, hosted open mic here in Chi-Town and Let Them Eat Chocolate, 5306 North Damon. It's great. We have 2 features every second Friday of the month, and it's really great. It's growing. And it's really always good to see that when you start from one point and then see it progress and people catch on and see it's just about the poetry. Because there's no money in it for me, but it's just to give people a place to rhyme at without charging them an arm or leg to do so.
I hope you like the interview so far. Me and G.P.A. go on to talk about a whole lot of other things, his future, things he wants to do, things he's going to do. And we were going to talk about America's Got Talent. How does that fit in? Well, we're going to have to wait till our next show, which will be our Valentine's Day episode, to find out more and see the conclusion of this interview. We'll be back. When we return, we'll talk to author Mon Trice about her latest projects and her activism. Log on to www.htcampbell3.net for showtimes, for links to the guest sites and more. That's www.htcampbell3.net. See you there. Have you checked out the Author's Corner lately? It's the best show you're not watching. It's filled with news, interviews, reviews, and other surprises. Check me out twice a month with the latest in the literary world. Check me out on my website, www.htcampbell3.net, or my YouTube channel at hdcampbell1230. And as always, let your writing fuel your spirit. On our next show, we'll be talking to author Cotton about her latest projects and her central poetry styles. Then we'll conclude our talk with G.P.A. and talk about his career and his future. My next author, Mon Trice, is a successful children's author. She's also a community activist, and she'll be the first of many authors locally I'll be spotlighting this year. So stay tuned for that, and a lot of them will be on location. So without further ado, here's author Mon Trice. Okay, I'm talking to Mon Trice, and this is about her book, Changing Seasons. How are you doing today, by the way?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. I love the book cover, by the way. You have to tell me who did your book cover. Start off with.
Well, the guy that did my book cover, his name is Ritwik Doss, and he was a Russian illustrator. I found out yesterday he no longer illustrates. He works for, he develops websites and does iPhone applications or something like that, but he no longer illustrates. But he did a wonderful job in this book.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. We'll touch on the book here in a few minutes. I want to start off by asking you, can you tell me what age you started writing and what inspired you to write?
Wow, I've been writing as far back as I can remember. As far as inspiration, I've been inspired by almost anything. It just depends on what hits me at the time. Lately, my son provides a lot of my material. He's 7. Or I'll see someone, doesn't have to be anybody I know, a stranger, just depends on what they're engaged in. Just whatever sparks my imagination.
Okay. Pretty good, pretty good. Tell me a little bit about that imagination that keeps your writing flowing.
What do you mean?
As far as what inspires you, is it, you know, your childhood, your family? A lot of people have something that sort of sparks their development of writing.
It's not like that for me. I remember being in the studio with Jade Harrell, and I was just watching her work. And she was doing so much multitasking, but it didn't feel or look like multitasking. And I was drawn to that and inspired to write on my blog about just sitting there with her talking. So it's everyday things like that that I can be inspired by. It doesn't have to be big. It could be anything, literally anything.
So I love that. I truly love that. Now, let's talk about your book. Tell me a little bit about your book, the plot. And
Changing Seasons came about when my son was an emerging reader, and we had started reading with him. My goal was to make his library as diverse as possible. So we went to the bookstore looking for books that had main characters that looked like him, and we came up short. Little Bill was available, but it was a title that was available as far as distribution, but they didn't have it on the shelves, so they were out of stock. And I called my sister, who has 4 boys, and asked, what are you guys reading? And so she gave me some titles, Magic Treehouse and the chapter books and whatnot. And I'm like, well, what specifically about books that feature African American characters? And she said, there really aren't any. And she suggested that I write a children's book. Now, at the time, I'm currently a columnist for Pure News USA. So I write columns, I write blogs, short stories, that sort of thing, but I wasn't really into the children's arena. But there was a need, so, he's only going to stay a child for so long. So I took her up on her challenge, and that's how this book came to be. One morning, I was making breakfast for him, and he couldn't decide between cream of wheat and oatmeal. And he went back and forth and back and forth, and it's common among kids about 5, 6 or so. They can't make up their mind about simple things. They flip-flop back and forth, and that's how the concept of this book is born. The main character, her name is Tanisha, and it's the first day of school, and she must decide which season is her favorite and why. So the reader gets a front row seat in her mind as she takes you through every single season, and each season is sprinkled with a little bit of African American culture. So the premise of the book, I wanted to definitely demonstrate that at the heart, all children are the same. The same things make them laugh, the same things inspire them. There are cultural differences that should be celebrated, and that's what this book is about.
Okay. Very good. Now, I really love this book simply because of the fact that it does have a lot of us in it, and it has characters that represent us. And like you said, Little Bill books are out, but the thing about it is they're not, they're hard to find. They're so popular.
The other thing about this book is that you also meet different members of a family. One thing that's predominant with our culture is that there are various kinship ties. You're probably as close to your aunt or your uncle or your grandma as you are your sister and your brother, the nucleus family, your parents and your siblings. So we have that extended family connection, and it's also demonstrated in this book. You get to meet her Nana and her grandpa, which play some pretty significant roles in her life on a 5-year-old level. Nana helps her with baking a sweet potato pie, and Papa, she helps him plant in the garden, things like that. But in addition to, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yes.
In addition to our culture, I still wanted to make the book diverse. So her best friend is Chi, and they're coming from the store, and they're sharing a pickle with a peppermint stick in it.
I love it.
I thought that was a part of my childhood growing up. We would go to the corner store, and that's something that we would get. I recently discovered that pastime is more of a Southern and a Midwestern thing. It's more regional than it is African American. I was at a publisher's group, and I read the book, and an elderly Caucasian man came up to me afterward. He loved the book, and he said he grew up with pickles and peppermint sticks. So now if I had to choose anybody out of that group, he would probably be the last person that I would have picked who would have experienced something like that. So, I'm ever learning, but a lot of this has been my experience. What it does is it takes the parents, for the most part, back to their childhood, and it sparks a conversation with their own children. Because for women, as far as straightening their hair, we use flat irons now. We don't use like the pressing comb. You see here, this is one of the illustrations.
Yes.
Show the mom. The mom has locks. I didn't tell the illustrator to do that. In fact, him and I have never seen each other. We've only communicated electronically by email and chat as far as what I needed. But I love that he did that, and he made them different shades of brown because our families are like that. So anyway, she's using a pressing comb on her child's hair in one segment of the story. The illustrator was wonderful to work with, and he understood the vision of the story, and it was with ease. I'm going to miss working with him on the second project.
Well, very good. On that note, actually, that was actually going to be one of my later questions, but And so, will there be a second project coming up? And probably another sequel?
The second project that I have that's in production right now is not Tanisha. It's a male character. His name is Cannon, and he learns to ride his bike, and it's comical. It's rhythmic as far as the manuscript is concerned. It rhymes. But you will see Tanisha again. It will be more with her best friend. Tanisha will be a series, but what happens is that her and she will be submersed in different cultures. What my point is to expose children to different areas of the world that they may not have access to. The internet makes it possible to have access to certain things, yes. But you know, again, it goes back to exposure. So that's going to be the premise for this character. The other upcoming character, his name is Cannon, after my own son. We'll just have different lessons to learn, life lessons like self-determination, integrity. Different moral issues will be tackled, again, on a kid level and in a fun way, so that while children are developing that reading skill, they're also getting some insight and some jewels along the way.
I love that. I love that. So do you have a small publishing company in which you publish your own books, or do you have a distributor? How do you get your books to market? My
book's published through Pageway Publishing, and they have an access of a distribution channel that has a connection with Ingram Books. Therefore, the books are available everywhere in every bookstore. The bookstores order through Ingram and Baker and Taylor catalogs, and my books are listed through those. So you can get it at Barnes & Noble, you can get it at, is it Books A Million?
Oh, Books A Million, yeah.
It's an independent, it doesn't have to be a chain or retail store, but everyone has access to the books.
Okay.
And if you're local in St. Louis, then you can just inbox me or send me an email, and you can get it personally.
Okay. Well, actually, that's well. Speaking of St. Louis, I'm going to transition into that. You're also a community activist, in
yes.
which you have done a lot in the community. Please tell me some of the things you've done in the community.
Oh my goodness. Well, recently I went back to my old neighborhood in North St. Louis City, and they're developing a garden. It's on the corner of Redbud and Carter, and that area was full of high weeds. I think they found, if I'm not mistaken, they found a dead body there.
Mm-hmm. In fact, that's my old neighborhood. So
we picked up trash and dug up dirt. I'm sure there's a proper name for that, but I am a city girl to my heart, and I don't know what it was that we did, but I was following instructions. So I dug up a lot of dirt and picked up a lot of trash. And the great thing about that experience was I looked up and the neighbors started coming out. They started coming out and they started asking questions about what we were doing, and a few of them helped. So it's like, it's an area that's feared because it's so crime-ridden, but when people understand that you care about what's happening right there where they live, they tend to take more of an interest too. Sometimes this is a lack of information, but when there is compassion there, it makes a huge difference. There was an apple tree in that field. I don't know. If it doesn't have an apple on it, I don't know that it's an apple tree, okay? So the lady that's leading the project, she pointed that out, and I thought, this has been here for years, and nobody would know because it's surrounded by weeds, and it was just deemed a useless parcel of land. And it just we talked earlier about motivation, but that right there motivated me because I thought, isn't that a lot like how people are? Someone deems you as useless and, good for nothing, and then someone or a situation comes along and inspires you to change or helps you to change, and you yield fruit, or you give forth whatever it is that you have. So that was the best experience.
Okay. Well, before I go on to my next question, I just want to tell you, number one, that's my old neighborhood, and I love where I grew up. Well, I actually grew up on the corner of Penrose and Newstead, so that's like right down the street. Okay. Right down the street from Redbud, turn the corner. But anyhow, it only takes one person, and you were that one person they saw out there. They got curious, and when people get tired, They tend to act.
More than one people, and this wasn't like my project. I saw it from a classmate of mine was spearhead. Well, I don't know who was responsible for it. My point is they needed help, and I said, I'm available, I'll help out. I remember the area. In fact, there's a corner store right across from Getting School that I used to work in. Yes, it is. And I went in there, and the guy is still there, some 30 years later, and he remembered exactly who I was. That was amazing. The people love him. He gives back to the community. Anyway, I digress. The point is, there are a lot of us making a difference. Young, old, black, white, Hispanic. We were all out there in that field trying to grow something. The access to wholesome fruits and vegetables are denied basically in the city. They're hard to get. Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other segment. I could go on about organic fruits and vegetables and genetically modified food, but I won't do that here. No. Anyway, it was a great project, and I was glad to be a part of it.
Well, I'll just say this real quick. Number one, I'm in full agreement with what you're saying about as far as our organically grown food and everything. And number two, a little fun fact: I went to Yeatman for kindergarten.
You went to Yeatman?
Yeah, for kindergarten. That was back in kindergarten was half a day though.
Oh, wow.
So I only went half a day and came home. So that's just a little fun fact there. So I know the market all too well. You recently had a book signing at the bread company. And from what, I'm putting you out there.
Confession of a person trying to be bold. That wasn't technically a book signing. I was going to the St. Louis Bread Company to write. When I'm at home, there's a ton of distractions. I do better if I write at the bread company. I had several people who needed copies of books, and I was short on time. So rather than me deliver, which I don't have a problem delivering locally at all, I asked, can you meet me at the bread company to pick up your book? So I thought, since I'm asking those people to come and pick up a book, I'm going to be sitting there writing anyway, and I have a little bitty stand for my book. I just invited everybody to come to the bread company to have lunch, whatever, get a book, get it signed now. So I was kind of a sophisticated squatter.
Right.
That's what I call it. So I came in, I kind of set up my computer and had my book there. I did go and I did introduce myself to the manager and explain why I was there, but I didn't exactly ask, I just kind of let him know that I would be tweeting and Facebook updating about the place and to come and have lunch. So I presented the benefits to him first before saying, oh, by the way, and I have my book,
Well, since
they were cool with it, but it wasn't something that was like designated as a book signing per se. But if you were there and you saw the book and you liked the book, I didn't have a problem selling you the book and signing it for you. But I didn't approach any of the patrons. However, the book sells itself because you don't see this very often.
No.
You don't see the face of her on a cover of a children's book very often at all. And if it is, it's sandwiched between other books. You're not going to find it on an end cap necessarily. I take that back. Once I was in the bookstore and I saw Snowy Day earlier this winter. That book was written in 1967, I do believe. But it's 2013.
Yeah, but
it's later. We need more. Right. We need more.
Right, because to really be honest, I'm not saying there aren't books with us on the shelf, but it's so far in between. And like you said, that book was in the 60s that you saw. And we really need a lot more to...
We need a lot more. The children's literature that's published and produced in this country that are minorities. Now, that's just not exclusive to African American, but that are minority or less. It's less than 2%. Less than 2%. That doesn't look like the landscape of our country. There's a problem.
Exactly.
But the thing we have to do is we have to stop saying, I'll be so glad when they, get more books for us, or when they do this or they do that. It's our problem.
Absolutely.
So we have to be very active and instrumental with the solution. Not everybody's I'm not advocating everybody sit down and try to write and publish a children's book, but whatever it is that you can do that. If it's go to the library and demand that you have more books like this one or Little Bill, and I think Whoopi Goldberg has a series out, as well as, I don't want to get her name wrong, Kim Wayne's Damon Wayans' sister.
Yes, yes.
She has they have a series out too, but you don't hear about them.
Right.
You don't hear about them. I know that through research, but why am I having to research this? That's the question. So yeah, read to your children different stuff, not just this is definitely needed, because without it, it sends a very dangerous message. And the message is, I'm left out, therefore I am unimportant. I'm not important enough to write about it. It's not a direct message, but over time, it's like I never had a book with anybody in it that looked like me. That's dangerous.
Right. I'm going to tell you something on a personal level. I'm very, how can I put this? I really like talking to you simply because of the fact you're very humble. You drive a powerful message. See, you laugh, but I'm very serious. You drive a powerful message, but you're very humbled. Before I go on, I'm about to say, even though when I asked you about the event and it didn't turn out to be a book signing, but it was one, I'm going to put some of the pictures on my slideshow when the show comes out. So you will.
Oh yeah, you can do the pictures. Now, they are aware of what I did. I just want people to know it wasn't like a plain book signing. It was more of an afterthought of a time constraint problem that I had, and I thought, what the heck, you might as well invite everybody down here, because a lot of people, some came from South City, a lot of them were in St. Louis, North County, and most people know we're a bread company.
Right, exactly.
It was just a perfect setup. It was an opportunity, and they didn't seem to mind, so I had a good time. I got way more than I ever expected to get from that event. There were people. It was a constant stream of people, and they all contributed to my spirit in some kind of way. It was bigger than a book sale. One lady sat down and we talked about everything, from healthcare to politics to religion, the forbidden topics. Exactly. And she talked about her family and how long she had been in an area. And there was an older lady and a Caucasian lady, and some people from my college. And then there was a stranger who remembered an interview that I had previously when the book launched. That was huge. I thought, wow, you remember that several years ago? And she remembered specific things that I said, and that made me cry. I'm like, wow. I had no idea that someone would remember something I had to say.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm, on the record, off the record, or however you want to take it. I've had conversations with you. You always have something to say, and it's always positive. You should know that.
Oh, funny.
But I'm serious. It's always positive. You always have a message to drive. So, with that, well, see, that's what makes sure. That's why people were able to approach you at the bread company. You're a very approachable person.
Apparently, if I caught somebody looking at the cover, I'd invite them to read the book. Like, would you like to read it? Most of them said yes, and everybody who read it bought it. So, win-win. It was not a pressure. I'm going shoving a book under somebody's nose. This is not my style at all. Plus, this is my baby, and it's not just because I wrote it. I really understand that there is a need. By the way, the name of the book is called Changing Seasons, and I'm listed as the author. First name Mon, last name Trice, Trice. Again, available at any bookstore. Barnes & Noble tends to have it for $14.99. Sometimes they'll have it on sale. If you're local, just look for me on Facebook or Twitter. On Facebook, I'm Mon Trice. On Twitter, it's Mon Trice, the author.
All right. Well, that's actually going to be my next question. Do you have a website or somewhere someone can get in contact with you?
I do have a website. It's montrice.net. montrice.net. Okay. You can contact me that way too.
Okay. And what's on the website, if you don't mind me asking?
On the website, there are links to, can't remember the name of it. There are links to help your child with reading, different phonics games, different reading games. There's also a trailer regarding this book, Changing Season. There are a couple of testimonials from people who've actually purchased the book and liked the book, and results from a contest that we had. I think there are several media pictures. There's a media tab. It's a lot of fun stuff on there, so you should go and explore it.
Okay. Well, what I just did for a second, I panned the camera over to my other computer. where I showed them what your website looks like, and I'll have a caption as to what the address and everything is.
Okay.
All right. Also, which comes to my next question: do you have any events coming up, or any more appearances, or anything that you're doing?
Yes, I do. Let me check the dates. Harrisville State College, their early education department, they have what's called a read-in. I think they're covering both dates, February 19th and February 20th. I have to confirm the times with the director. But I will be there with the book, doing a reading, and have some for sale. And that's Harris Stowe is at the corner of, it encompasses a huge country block and some, but I know it's at Compton and Laclede is one of the corners, Compton and Laclede, Market and Compton. That area is where you can find the school.
My last and final question. Anyone who wants to publish their own book, anyone who wants to publish their own book, or anyone who just wants to sit down and write, do you have any words of wisdom or any advice that you can give?
Wow. That's a very broad question. Hold on a second. Let me think about it. Yes. And the biggest thing is not to be afraid to make a mistake. Because if you're so afraid of making a mistake, then you won't do anything. And then you won't go anywhere. But I say make as many mistakes as you can, because in those, there's the learning opportunity. Now, for me, I created my own publishing company to house my work. That may not be the path for everybody. You know, some decide to self-publish. I later down the line will publish other people, just not right now. So just be honest with yourself and not be afraid to try things. And personally, I don't think that a failure is a failure unless you just quit. So if you try something and it doesn't work, then try something else and just keep it moving.
Thank you for watching The Author's Corner with H.D. Campbell. I truly hope you enjoyed today's authors, all humble but yet so very talented in their own way. We're out of time, but I have one more great interview to show you. That will be on my show page as bonus content. It's an interview with a wonderful author I spoke to last year named Samantha Lewis. And the name of her book is called I Want My Darn Skates. It was a great interview, and I hope you enjoy it too. Until next time, write more, write often, and let your writing fuel your spirit.